I have Jacob Stitch Duran in the interview room. How you doing, Stitch?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Just got off the plane, and it's kind of nice to do what I do, and I can't complain, man. And here I am talking to you.
Yep. All right, my first question is, how did you become a Cutman for the UFC, and where did the nickname Stitch come from?
Well, I'll start off with Stitch because that came before I was a Cutman with the UFC. But I used to have a school of kickboxing in Fairfield, California, and one of my fighters that was a young kid got cut, and I was just kind of a fledgling Cutman at that time, and he had a small cut on his left eyebrow, and I didn't have no medicines or anything like that, but just instincts told me to apply direct pressure, and I did, and then after the fight, I had seen other veteran Cutmen use butterflies, and so I kind of made one up out of the tape that I used to wrap hands, and I put it on the cut and closed it up, and he says, "Hey, you saved me some stitches. I'm gonna call you Stitch," and I thought, pretty good name, so I stuck with that. And then how did I come to be with the UFC is, I've known Dana for many years. I used to sell boxing equipment to him for the fighters he used to work with, and we just kind of knew each other in the gyms. And I hadn't seen Dana in about a year, and I was working a K1 event at the Bellagio, and Dana was there, and we greeted each other, and he asked for my card, and the following day he called me and told me that him and Lorenzo and Frank had bought the UFC, and they were looking for a Cutman to help Leon Tabs out, and at that time it was just Leon. So he asked if I was interested, and obviously I said yes, and it's been history ever since.
Gotcha. What is the bloodiest fight or cut you ever had to deal with?
Well, I tell you, there's countless of them, but I was up in Daytona Beach last week with doing an autograph signing, and Houston Alexander was there, and he was talking about this guy Abel that was in the heavyweight tough man, or the ultimate the tough for the heavyweights, and I don't know if you remember, but he ended up with that big old gash in his forehead. And like I told Houston, I said, a lot of people don't realize, but, that cut went in, another inch into his scalp, and that was a big cut. That was, size-wise, that was a big cut. But, when it comes to real big and ugly was Marvin Eastman when he fought Vitor Belfort. That was a big, ugly cut, and I worked on that one. But when it comes to bleeding, I have to give the bleeding award to Jay Heron when he fought John Letton. He took a knee to the forehead, and that big vein that we have between our eyes, he kind of cut that vein, and it just kind of bled like a faucet, and both fighters had blood from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, front and back, and it became the bloodiest fight you'll never see on TV.
Gotcha. You own your own clothes brand called One More Round. What's the meaning behind the brand name?
Well, One More Round was a clothing company, or still, but they came forward, and through Matt Hughes is the one that connected me with them, and as sponsoring. But and it's funny you bring this up because I think you're probably going in the direction that it's my company, and a lot of people thought that it was my company because I gave them so much exposure, and but it was a company that worked with me for a while until the UFC 100, when the UFC required all these companies that were getting a lot of free advertisement to they had to put their money in if they wanted to play, and One More Round couldn't. So now I'm being sponsored by Tap Out.
Gotcha. In terms of cities, because you travel all over, what is your favorite city to work in, and why?
Well, and that's a good question. And it used to be Montreal. I've been there, 2 or 3 times, and definitely, the first time we were there with the UFC was pretty awesome, and the fans were hysterical and all that. But was it 2-3 weeks ago? I just came back from Sydney, Australia, and I tell you what, that took the first place for me. My favorite city, the city, the fans, the country, everybody. It was one of those perfect moments, when everything worked well and the fights were great. So I got to give Sydney, Australia, the props right now.
Gotcha. In terms of being a Cutman, was this one of your dream jobs, or you just to pay the bills?
No, absolutely, it was a dream that's coming true, and the reason I tell you that is like I say, I used to be in Fairfield, California. I had a nice job with a corporate America company, and I had a nice school of kickboxing. It was called ASK, the American School of Kickboxing, and I love training and fighting and promoting and managing and doing everything that goes into sport. plus I had a nice secure job with R.J. Reynolds. But I wanted to follow my dreams to be a cut man, and I put in for a job transfer with my company, and it finally came, and I made the move to Las Vegas, and in doing that, I took like a $25,000 a year cut and pay, but my wife supported me, and we made the move over here, and for a while it was a struggle, and but I stuck with it, and she believed in me, and here I am now. I'm probably one of the few 2 or 3 cutmen that could actually make an honest living off of this. So dreams do come true.
So you're the most recognizable, really. When people see you, they go, "Hey, I know Stitch," or "That's Stitch," right?
Yeah, well, that's why Frank Trigg and myself were in Phoenix doing an autograph session, and last week I was in Daytona doing the same thing. So yeah, me as a cutman, I don't know of any other cutman that goes out and gets hired to do autograph sessions, and people that were sitting next to me on the plane as we were landing asked me who I was, and that I look famous. So yeah, that's it's kind of an honor that's I don't mind.
Exactly. How long, in your mind, do you think it will take for the MMA to ever become as big as boxing as it was in its heyday?
Well, when boxing was in its heyday, was really a sport that was like no other. And I remember the times when I was here, when the Mike Tyson fights were here in Las Vegas. It was a show in itself. But you know what? Surprisingly enough, the UFC has already created that. And I just checked on the Twitter where Dana's going to be at the Manny Pacquiao and Joshua Clottey fight in Dallas, Texas, and I'm not excited about that. And I'm a boxing guy, so I think UFC or MMA world has definitely taken a leap forward, and at least in the eyes of the UFC, where it's really taken over boxing. And when I first started working in the UFC and the mixed martial arts, all these boxing people were kind of bashing me for doing this sport and that it wasn't going to last. And now I'm getting calls, guys that want to be cut men and guys want to be trainers, and everybody wants to come on board, but little too late. And it's not that easy. I get emails all the time, Ted, from people that want to be cut men, and they see what I do and they think they could just jump on the wagon that easy and do what I do, but they don't realize that it's taken many, many years to get where I'm at.
Gotcha. Speaking of boxing, you were in the newest Rocky Balboa movie. How was that?
Hey, I tell you, that was another dream come true. And I mean, how many guys do you know have been in the Rocky movies? And for me to play myself in a movie as iconic as that was like no other. And those are one of the goals that I didn't expect to happen, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And I gotta thank my wife once again for me doing that, because I turned it down when I first got the call, because I was doing a major boxing event in Paris, France, and then the following week I had another boxing event in London, and I was looking at the economic factors, and my wife told me that I was crazy because I had to be in the Rocky Balboa movie because Rocky is such an American icon. And I reevaluated it, and I thought, I'm going to think of myself on this one, and I did it, and I mean, it's been great, and I think it's the last Rocky movie. I hope it is, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of emails, you said you get emails all the time. People want to be cut men and trainers. How did Junior Seau do on sports jobs when you trained him to be a cut man?
Oh, Junior Seau?
Yeah.
I tell you what, that was great. Number one, I've always been a big fan of Junior Seau, and my son Daniel is a linebacker here at Green Valley High School, so there's a lot of I mean, there was that bond that I picked up with him right off the bat. But such a great guy, and for me to give him some information that a lot of people don't get, and for him to be in that position to want to absorb it was pretty awesome. And I got a call from a friend of mine this morning that was making a comment on that, and he says, that was pretty cool the way you gave him the tap-out jacket, the cornerman jacket that says Junior Stitch, so to have a big guy like that, be a junior under my tutelage was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, Stitch, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you soon, brother.